Okay, so we made a render, and it should be at the same view that you have in Rhino. That's really important. So make sure you got those to look exactly the same. All right. I'm now going to start layering information together to create a final render. So to begin with, I need to make 2D of this. So I'm going to get this open, and I can type in select visible and hit enter, and hit enter to use the entire view. So that's going to select everything that's visible. It's not going to bother selecting the stuff that's not visible. That is important. Okay, then I'm going to type in make 2D, and I want this to be render view 1, view. I like keeping my hidden lines. I like maintaining my source layers, and hit OK. It's going to think for a little bit. I'm not sure it knows how to make 2Ds of meshes. I think these guys are still, these are still meshes. Let's see how that works, if it works. Oh, it did it. So apparently it figured that out. Great. Okay. So this is nice because, like, okay, yes, some of these lines are going to be totally friggin' insane, and I can spend time and clean those up. I can also just hide them if I don't want to use them. But it's going to give me a few outlines for my drawing. I'm going to select this, File, Export Selected, and I want to save this again somewhere that I can find it. So Micah, week 7. And one thing that's nice, like if you, I wonder where I saved my Lumion drawing. Did I not save them here? Good question. Okay, I'm just going to save it here, not worry about it for right now. So if you title all your renders the same thing, so if this is, I think I called it render view 1 or something. So if I do render view 1 line output, it is useful because it's easier to find out, find all the things that go together, right? So all the render view 1s would go together. I didn't start doing that earlier, but I should have done that. Okay, save. So now it's thinking about it. 2000 number natural is good. Hit OK. All right. So I can now open this in Illustrator. So I'm going to type in Illustrator. And first thing I want to do is I want to see what size that drawing I created is. So if I go to, I thought I saved it in that folder. I really hope I did. So I go to Desktop, Micah, 7. Yeah, so my render output 1s are all here. So my render output 1s go with my render view 1. That's not terrible. Okay, so if I right click on here and go to properties, it's going to tell me how many pixels it is. I thought it would tell me how many pixels it is. Is it not going to? Yeah, okay, I have to go to details. So it's 3,840 by 2,160. So I'm going to note that down so I remember it. It's 3,840 by 2,160. Okay. So that's fine. Okay. So I'm going to create a new document, and I'm going to make it the same exact size as that thing. So I'm going to change my unit to pixels, and it's going to be 3,840 by 2,160. Okay. And I didn't need to make 4 of them. I can just delete the ones I don't need. So close out of that, close out of that, close out of that. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go to File, Import, or sorry, File, Place, and I'm going to place in just one of those images for now, just so it's in the background and I can get things lined up. So I'll go to I'm sorry, everything is so disorganized on my computer sometimes. Desktop, Micah, week 7, and I'll just open one of these just so I can see it. And that should be the same size. So this really beautiful thing, we're going to get rid of that in Photoshop, don't worry. Okay, now that this is in here, I want to put my line work over. So I'm going to lock this layer, create a new layer, and then I'm going to, actually I just want to open that other file as is for right now. So I'm going to go to render view on output, open, okay. And I'm just going to scale to fit artboard, hit okay. Zoom out. I'm going to select everything, Control C. This is one case, select over here, get rid of paste remembers layers, Control C. Oh, no, sorry, I want paste remembers layers, put that on. I thought it would be off. Okay, that should be checked. Come over here and do Control V. That way all your layers should still be there. Okay, and now I can bring this down, and I was hoping it would be the same scale, and it's not. So I'm going to have to do that thing where I make it bigger, make it be the same scale. And I'm hoping that these lines really will align. The one thing I wasn't sure about in the last thing is when I changed the focal length. So that's the one thing that makes me a little bit nervous, but I think it looks like it's going to work out. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. So I now no longer need this in here. So I'm going to turn that off. And then here, you know the drill. This is just like all of your other drawings, right? So Control A. I'm going to make everything black in this time. And like, it depends on the style of your drawing, how you want to change everything, right? Like you might do a white line drawing. You could do a crazy, there's so many different kinds. It's really up to you to decide what your style is, how you're going to apply the rules in a way that makes sense for you. And then all my hidden lines. So because I'm doing this quickly, I'm not going to go through and maybe take as much care making sure that everything is exactly as I might want it. So I'm just going to go through and select all the hidden ones to begin with. I think they're all luckily grouped for me towards the beginning, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, those are all my visibles down there. So all those I'm going to bring down to 0.25. I'm going to bring the opacity down to 50%. I'm going to go to my stroke panel. Right now they're dash lines, but it's a really tiny dash because it like tried to bring it into scale. So I'm going to make the dash like 4 point. Let's see already how that's looking, if that's looking any better. Yeah, so like clearly like that should be a visible line, right? Like there's things that are wrong with it that I should spend some time and go through and fix to make this a really good drawing. And I'm going to ask you to do that. I'm not going to make you sit through me doing that in this tutorial. And ideally, I would like have a set of lines that goes around here particularly, and I can just do this in Illustrator. So I could make a new file, a new layer, and call this like outline. And I could actually go through and be like, okay, I want the very outside lines of this. Change object layer. So you just drag up to there. I would really like the very outlines of this to be darker so that they pop more. And I could go around and like make that happen for real. But again, I'm not going to spend all the time doing that. And I can also Control X, edit. If I get rid of paste remembers layers, I can do edit, paste in place, and that'll automatically change it to that layer. And then I can change this to the point I wanted. Select all of those, get rid of the dash lines. So this is like these are all cleanup things that need to happen in a real drawing that I'm not going to do in the tutorial. Okay. So now that I have this, I'm just going to save it. So I'm going to hit File, Save. And this is Linework. So we call this Render View 1 Linework. And I would spend time in Illustrator to make that nice. I could also do tones in here. Okay, and save. Okay. So now I'm going to open up Photoshop. Photoshop is where I'm going to compile everything for this final drawing. So to begin with, I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to change this to inches. And I think I asked for 24 inch by 24 inch. You can double check the project sheet, make sure I'm right. We'll keep it at 300 pixels per inch. I'm going to call this Kinetic Sculpture Example Render Output 1. Okay. File, place. And here is where you're going to place in all of those different layers we made. So, like that, 7. Okay, so I'm going to place in, let's just start out placing in render output 1. Okay, so it only takes up part of this. I probably want to change my settings to have a bigger image, right? Like there's no reason to have all of this be totally blank. I can also fill this in Photoshop, this other stuff. I could find other ways to make a drawing of this. I could make it diagonal. There's all things I can do to work with the size of my paper. For right now, I'm going to leave this view as is and then figure that I would continue to collage up or down to help tell the story of my kinetic sculpture, however that's going to happen. Okay, so I'm putting that in. File, place. I want to place in my Linework. I'm going to place the Illustrator file. Place. And I want to crop to media box and hit OK. And then that should place that right on top there. But I cannot see it. Why is that? Just really tiny? Oh yeah, it's there. It's just really tiny. Okay. File, place. I want to place in all of my other beautiful things I bothered to render. So I'm going to go place. Hit enter after each one. And you don't necessarily have to place them all in. You might not need them all. I'm placing them all in here because I can have them for reference if I want them. But it's also really easy for me to get rid of them. So if I leave these all linked and I don't ever rasterize them, I can also like redo the render, change a couple things, and then replace them right back on top, and they should like update automatically. Like if I just saved them with the same name, which would be nice. The only issue is that there's this thing, and that thing is going to bother me. So I might go through and like delete every single one to get rid of that. Anyway, so these generally I'm going to leave them hidden unless I actually need them. But one way you could use it, for example, let's say I decide I didn't love the lighting in my original view here. I probably want my Linework all the way on top. Linework on top. Okay, so I could put this on and then I could go here and change the opacity, the blending mode. And that could really quickly help give me a kind of a different effect. So maybe I want it, ooh, I kind of like that, the color dodge one. So maybe I could do a color dodge and then bring the opacity down a little bit to keep some of it in. And how much of that I would want. I kind of like that, like with less color. The colors look kind of crazy. That's something I can play with. But that's one way to use it. I can also keep it really light, so that's it without it. I could just add it as a little bit to just give a little extra punch. For the depth one, for example, if I were to put that on, I could change that to bring this down, opacity way down, and like maybe I want to use it for luminosity or hard mix. Like there's things I can do just to help create a slightly different effect on here. I think I liked it best on hard mix. So this is all experimentation. So I'm going to bring it back down to hard mix. Okay, so I'm leaving that on hard mix. The sky on this I think looks super lame, so I'm going to use my sky alpha. Turn it on a sec. The only reason I'm using it is to select that. I'm going to take this and do add to my selection and go over this. So that's all one thing. And then I'm going to turn that off, come over to my initial rendering. Where'd it go? Render output 1, and I'm going to create a mask. So that gets rid of that sky. I'm actually going to also put that mask on. So I'm going to add mask to selection, and then I'm going to put the same mask on anything else I have visible. So the depth one I have visible, so I'm going to add the mask to that. Select, add mask to selection. I'm going to add it to this one I have on. Okay. So to get rid of this little trial version thing, I actually am going to rasterize this, which is not always the best thing to do, but we're doing it. Rasterize smart object, and then I'm going to zoom into here. And this is like, I don't know if it's legal, maybe it's not legal, unclear. But I'm just going to go over that with 100%. And notice I still see it. The reason I still see it is because it's still on my other layers. So I need to go through and delete it from those two. And this is a pain in the butt. I can also cover it up with people. And maybe I should just plan on covering it up with a bush. Okay, so I have to do that on each of these layers, which is like, oh, it's not telling me to do that. Cancel. Okay, so I have to rasterize anything I want to use the clone tool on. It forces me to rasterize. So if I do that again, yes, raster is a smart object. Okay. So if I just do those two, maybe that's enough to get rid of it. Use a slightly bigger brush if I can change that up there. That just got like way clearer. Why is that? So this is its own little project. I'm being a little bit lazy about it, but you can get it to disappear. It'll happen, just takes a little bit of patience. And the smarter way to do it might just be to crop this so that it's more area than you need, and then you can just like move it off to the side. Okay, good enough right now. So I have those things, and now it's all about adding stuff, right? So let's say I want to add in a sky. Sky. I can find, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful sky. Copy image. Control-E. Oh, it's really tiny. That's not ideal. Ideally, you want something that's like going to be the right size for your image so that it doesn't come out super pixelated. Okay, apply, and I'm going to drag that to the bottom. Now I have this really dramatic, great. I probably want it more like here. I'm going to transform that. Control-T. Let's bring this around the other way. So I have like this amazing craziness happening. Right over Baltimore. Okay. Beautiful sky in there. Maybe I want to bring in a cheering crowd. Oh, those guys are really tiny. And you know how to use Photoshop at this point, so I'm not going to belabor all these points of how you can do this. But you could start bringing in a cheering crowd. Obviously, there's a lot more that needs to happen to this to make it look realistic, to make it look good. I don't think those people should stay in it at all. But this is the basic idea of how you would assemble the whole thing together. You might decide that in the end of the day, you really don't want the render to be that visible, and you could bring the opacity of that way down. It could really be focusing more on the line work. The line work could be more important. You can always go in Photoshop, recolor things. That's all up to you. You can also, like this is a real place. So if you're able to get your render from a similar angle to what you can get on Google Earth, you can also use information right from here. The quality of the image is not awesome. But for example, if I were to bring that in, I need to bring up this opacity a little bit. Maybe I just want to use the buildings from there, or just the sidewalks, so that those look a little bit more real. So I could totally crop, like, let's say I just want to bring in like these little wacky buildings, and maybe this tree and sidewalk. Let's say I want to bring this whole little corner. So I just Control C, Control V to give it a whole new layer. I'm going to turn off that. I can bring the opacity of this down so I can see what I'm doing a little bit. This building, I believe, is this one, so I can do Control T. And now the angle I'm working with isn't the same, which makes it tricky. But I could have worked harder in the beginning to like get these angles to match up. This is another one where line work can be really helpful. So if I know that building goes there, I can recut out this building on its own layer. This can actually make it as tall as I need to be. And I can start fussing with the dimensions of it. This is looking super wacky though. So it'll take some finessing to get this to be as believable as you might want. But it's certainly something you could work on. And then obviously, like, the building needs to have this all cut out of it. So I could use one of the other masks I have. So if I put this on, I have this all as a material. So if I can use that to create a selection, I use my magic wand tool, select all of those things. Actually, maybe I want to make my mask first. So I could go back to this layer. If you right click on a layer, you can probably find it. Layer 5? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to create a mask first, and then I know if I put black on here, it's going to make that go away. So I'm going to go back to this crazy drawing for a sec, select out the yellow that I know is going to come out, and then come over to here and do Edit, Fill, Black. Make sure you actually have the mask highlighted, hit OK. and that'll cut that out of there. And then I can turn that back off. And that's already cut out, so I don't have to go through and like redo the cutouts every single time. So I'm going to want to take this piece out. So obviously this needs tons of more work to make this into a rendering that's actually worth showing, that tells a story, but those are at least some of the techniques so that you know how to render so that it has the same view as in Rhino. So that will allow you to get in your line work, which is so important, all about having actual line work in there. And then you can bring in other things. Bring in other layers. You can use all of those extra things we rendered to help you select things. That's really the purpose of those more than anything else, or to add in blending modes. I think, and you can bring in entourage, so that can be people, that can be more trees, it could be other kinetic sculptures, it could be other people's renders, it could be real streets, all those could be dogs, whatever. All right, that's it. Thanks.